target on my back, lone survivor last. They got me in the sights.
Hey, we're back on The Reckoning. Ryan Haidt here. I had to take a second there. Fish is trying to kill me with the headphones. Holy cow. Turning the volume up on me. My goodness.
I bumped it. I didn't do it on purpose.
That's okay. I am awake now, sir. Hello.
Hearing test.
Hearing test indeed. Well, we'll see. Maybe it'll start to fade and I'll just hear a ringing.
Raise your right hand.
Oh, boy. But folks, I'm excited.
Both if it's really loud.
Oh, my gosh. Well, two hands up. But I'm excited and glad to be awake. I've got on the phone with me now Mr. Paul List, author of a new book, Mount Doom. Also, I love it, a self-taught or a self-educated philosopher. And I was going through a great biography, but one of my favorites. In his spare time, he reads and rereads Aristotle and Thomas Aquinas, and things like that just get me excited. But I'm excited to talk to him here about his new book, Mount Doom, and also what I would call the AI arms race. But frankly, I think it's a much deeper question than that we're facing right now. Mr. Paul List, thank you for joining me today, sir. How are you?
I'm good, Ryan. Thanks a lot for having me. Who's your co-host there?
Oh, I've got Mr. Fish is my DJ here today, or my DJ Fish is in his alternate life. He's my producer here today and pops into the conversation.
Okay.
But
there you go. Well, I'm here.
Absolutely. Great. Well, I tell you what, I am so excited about this. When this came across my radar here and I started doing some reading, I'm really excited about this. You're taking a pretty provocative way into the AI conversation, which right now is just exploding. And I feel like so many people are just dabbling with some of the fringes of AI technology. You know, we've got our chatbots now, and it's really neat what stuff that it'll put together and kind of enhance your control. But the reality is, I say your control, your productivity. But the reality is AI is artificial intelligence in the way that we're moving into it in society is such a big set of questions. And there are a lot of people, including Elon Musk and a lot of others, as they're pushing forward with this technology, it's looking like the future is becoming very tied in. And I know those of us who pay attention to anything when it comes to a big push for technology or the transhumanism or anything like that, all of our spidey senses start to tingle and say, now, wait a minute, hold on. What are you guys talking about? So if you would, give me a rundown of your proposition on this new book, Mount Doom, available now. You're a co-author with another gentleman. I would love to hear kind of what spurred this book on and what the main point is you're getting across.
Well, my main point that I'm getting across is J.R.R. Tolkien to the rescue. Go figure. Probably the most important and most popular literature in human history. His Lord of the Rings, we'll call it, mythology. And probably the most successful and universally well-known and loved author in J.R.R. Tolkien saw this coming a long time ago and actually wrote about it. His whole mythology is about transhumanism, very, very cleverly hidden. He actually, what a lot of people don't understand or know is that J.R.R. Tolkien in 1939 actually trained for 3 days at the British Code and Cipher School in England to crack the Germans' Enigma code before the onslaught of World War II. Germany, knowing that Hitler was coming and their communications were critical to their global war machine, so if they could crack that, they'd have a much better chance at defeating Hitler. So England, Britain, nominated 50 intellectuals of the Dons of Oxford, you might say, and whatnot. And they started the government code and cipher school, and it was to crack the Enigma machine. And on staff there, as Tolkien trained for 3 days, was Alan Turing. And Tolkien and his experience with that and his great loathing for machinery. Tolkien was no fan of machinery at all. He saw the only thing that they were going to do was create a more powerful machine that would ultimately lead to the enslavement of humanity. About 3 years prior to this training, Alan Turing had literally invented the digital computer on paper in his 1936 paper on computable numbers with an application to the Skydunks problem. Tolkien took that paper and two other very important papers at the beginning of the 1950s, 1950 and 1951, and worked this and a lot of other things into his mythology, things that we think are just, they're just, unconsequential part of the story, but they're not. They're actually pieces and elements from these papers and a lot of other things too. So J.R.R. Tolkien knew that the ideas that Alan Turing had, particularly his idea redefining the nature of intelligence to be really just imitation. And he knew that this would lead to dire consequences for humanity. He also knew that it would lead to the actual coming to fruition of the virtual realm, which virtual reality is a very ancient philosophical question called continuity. Ancient philosophers used to wonder, well, is this created world? Is this all continuous? We can look and try to split it and try to divide it, and it's infinitely divisible, and that's called analog. Or is it a series of indivisible points so close together that we can't tell the difference? That's digital. So that was a question that the ancient philosophers asked themselves thousands of years ago, and Aristotle in his physics, juxtaposing time and distance, and came to the conclusion that in fact it is an analog continuous creation. But the notion that our senses can't tell the difference between what's real and what's not, if those pieces and sounds and whatnot are close enough together, we can't tell the difference. And so Tolkien realized that this was going to lead to the development of an alternative realm in direct competition with God's creation, and that's exactly what they've done. And these masters of machines, I'll just take Elon Musk as probably the primary, most public figure of the whole thing. We have to make sure that these guys do not control the conversation. They don't control the law regarding these things. They're pushing us into this. These guys have no morals. Some of them are actually amoral. They are steeped in Darwinism. They have no love for human life. So we have to really make sure that we fight back and do not let them commandeer the dialogue and steer us in a direction that ultimately gives artificial intelligence political power. We have to make sure that never happens. And we're very close, because a lot of these guys are already telling us, and there's a lot of very naive people claiming that, oh yeah, it's alive. It's sentient. This thing's alive. Well, that's just a very small leap from, okay, if it's alive, it has free will, it should have political power. And we have to be very careful that that never happens. We have to keep artificial intelligence in its domain, which is the material realm, and it has no expansion into the immaterial realm, which these guys have denied a long time ago. Anyway, but we just have to make sure that we put the laws in place, and we, with some visionaries that put the laws in place to make sure that nobody convinces anybody that this thing was ever alive, ever could be alive, ever could have a soul, ever did have a soul, never it is not part of God's inalienable rights. It has no rights. It's just a machine. It imitates very well, and we have to really, really be careful. It's really like a fire. We've made an incredibly flammable society over the last few decades, and then we've created this fire that we've given it the ability to adapt and actually see humanity as an obstacle to its ends. Its ends are anti-human, and it's going to burn us down. And we have to rise above this realm. We have to cultivate virtue. We really have to try to be competent human beings on every level. Don't swallow the bait. Do not get involved with the virtual realm. Never put those goggles on. Do not go there. And for God's sake, don't look at pornography. That's the ultimate trap. That is a bait to the trap. Pornography ruins our minds. It sucks us in. It's a very, very wretched, degrading habit, and it destroys humanity. It destroys relationships. Artificial intelligence is here to cause a genocide in the name of freedom and happiness, and in a false sense of an alternative to God's ultimate end for us, which is to join him forever in eternity. The machine says, oh no, join with me now, and you can have eternity right here. All the pleasures and no responsibilities, never suffer any pain. All you have to do is join with the machine. Well, when you do, you're dead.
Man. Again, folks, Paul List, the author of Mount Doom, The Prophecy of Tolkien Revealed. You get a copy of it. readmountdoom.com is where you can find that. Paul, I was so excited when I first saw this, and I didn't want to, I didn't want to give it away. So that's why I didn't even go to the Tolkien reference, but that was one of the first things. When I saw Mount Doom, I was like, what is it? Oh, that's great. I love it. It's a Tolkien reference, whether they meant it to. Oh my goodness, they did. And that just gets me so excited, because I mean, Tolkien is my bar none, I think my one of my favorite authors, and there's so much packed into it. It just, the creativity alone inspires me. But the more we dig into this, I hadn't thought of it until I started researching and looking at your work and your book. that, boy, we really are asking the big questions. And I mean, you go much deeper than that, but even the overarching, searching for this power that man thinks they can control, and yet we know you can't. It will corrupt you. It's incredible to see how deep it goes and how much wisdom is packed into there. But let me ask you this. We are, as we're fighting now through a lot of these discussions, I mean, we're seeing pieces of it. And I so love that you tie it not just to virtual reality or AI chatbots, but even all the way back to pornography. What you're doing is giving yourself a digital substitute for the real thing. And I mean, you can draw all the correlations you want. This goes all the way back to the garden, though. With the knowledge of good and evil, you will be like God. You don't need God. You yourself can have this knowledge. No, that will not end well. And we've repeated the story and over and again. So as we're listening to these tech giants now, you mentioned Elon Musk, there's others too. What is some of the specific language we ought to be looking for? Because from Elon, you'll hear a lot of stuff about, I'm here for human flourishing. I want what's good for the planet and what's good for people. And he starts talking about population numbers and the birth rate. What are some of the key pieces of language we should be watching for that are the warnings of, wait a minute, what you're suggesting is a bad idea? What language should people be watching for as we're listening, not just to Elon, but others talk about some of this new technology, how it integrates?
Well, when they start using it like it's legitimate intelligence, and it's so much smarter than human beings, and it's going to be so much more intelligent. No, it's going to imitate better. This thing is not intelligent. It computes. That's what it is. It computes. It recognizes patterns. It recognizes probabilities and statistics with the data that it has. And it's very good at it, just like the old Texas Instrument calculator. It can add these numbers up and press pi times pi, and boom, there's this 12-digit number in a flash. And that was back in the the 70s. So I mean, these machines are really good at this, and they're really fast. And the bigger we make them, and the more we pack in data that they have to work with, and then they develop their neural network, so they've got more and more structure by which they can do more and more trial and error now instantaneously. This isn't true intelligence, and it will never be alive. It can never have a soul. These guys will always try to get us to believe that this thing ultimately is sentient, because once it's sentient, they could claim, well, we should give it political power. And once we've done that, we're done.
So
we're done.
So in your opinion, though,
to make sure that
no, go ahead.
Well, we just have to make sure that we push our legislators and our president and whatnot to. One of the things that we can do now before it gets out of hand, and we can actually get ahead of these guys, is to actually nip this in the bud and pass laws that say, no, a computer is still a machine, regardless of how complex, regardless of how well it imitates, regardless of who it fools. It only fools the fool, because they don't understand what this thing is. Essentially, they only judge it by its attributes, and its exterior manifestation of its attributes aren't its essence. Essentially, it's still a machine. And they'll say, well, you're just a machine. You're a biological machine. This is a chemical machine. They've been pushing that for a long time. That comes out of the Enlightenment, Darwinism, and whatnot. But what they will never say is the essence of a human being with a soul or a life. To be alive, you have to have a soul. And they won't bring that up because they don't believe in it. And they also know that this is an Achilles heel for them. If it becomes part of the conversation, and it's a strong part of the conversation, they will not be able to overcome that, because regardless of how efficient these things are, regardless of the less than intelligent members of society decide that it's actually alive because they're fooled by it, it will never have a soul. It will never be alive. All it will ever do is imitate better and better and better. It will imitate, here to distract and deceive and ultimately bring about an end to the whole creative process. People will stop having relationships, or already relationships are on the dire straits with the whole, relationship dating scene. It's a jungle of disaster. Birth rates are already down. Marriage is in the tank. And now we bring along these robots. This robot that's going to do anything you want it to do to you in the privacy of your own home, or so you think. What it's really going to do is going to be recording and sending back everything you do with that robot.
Yeah.
So we've got to keep this in mind, that it's very, very destructive, but it's enticing and it's insidious, because what's going to do is it gives us everything we want. It's essentially a very complicated mirror. it mirrors back what we want it to be for us.
Yeah.
It's the opposite of a human relationship, because if you guys are married and got kids or in a relationship at all, you understand that having a relationship with another human being requires demands. It demands things of us to be considerate of the other person, to give way to the person, to respect the other person, to do all these things, to put up with the other person sometimes, all these things that are so critical to a human relationship. The machine will never ask of you.
Man.
It will only just give you what you want.
Man, that's
not what you need.
No, you're absolutely right. I tell you what, folks, again, we're talking with Paul List, author of Mount Doom, The Prophecy of Tolkien Revealed. I would love to have you guys get a hold of this. ReadMountDoom.com. You can find it there. Paul, I got a lot of questions, and this segment went way too fast.
Yeah.
Can I hold you over? Can you stay with me just a few more minutes?
Oh, of course I can.
Okay, folks, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Again, Paul List, the author of Mount Doom. We'll be back on The Reckoning just a moment. Hey, folks, back on The Reckoning. Here's Ryan Haidt, and we've got another segment coming up here. We've got Mr. Paul List still on the phone with us, co-author of the book, Mount Doom, The Prophecy of Tolkien. We're talking about AI here. Get a copy of it at readmountdoom.com. All sorts of Tolkien references all over. Not just references. I mean, this is a whole thing of unpacking something fantastic here. But Paul, thanks for sticking with me over the break. I tell you what, I do so appreciate, that you bring this down to the fact that, I think our conversation over AI has shifted so much just in the last few years, as we've realized, the big concern is not really necessarily some sort of, sentient AI, Skynet. It becomes, sentient, and we're all fighting, robots and going underground. This really has a much more deep and frankly spiritual biblical connection. We're challenging what is real and what is fake. And I think that, a lot of people are getting a very little glimpse of that as we talk about AI videos, AI audio. Is this real? Is this fake? That's just the tip of the iceberg is what it sounds like. But let me ask you this. When it comes to some of the big names in it, you mentioned Elon Musk. I have to ask, I know that, as I read your work here, we were getting into the fact that, Elon Musk, there's a lot of bad actors across this, but I have to wonder, do you think that maybe this fundamental values difference is one of the reasons we saw his exit from the Trump administration? Do you see them being resistant to this? I know a lot of people talked about the AI moratorium they just passed in the one big bill. I wonder what your take is on that, and if that's one of the reasons you might have seen him depart a little bit from the spotlight, because it was over some big fundamental values questions like this.
I think we have to be aware of something. These guys that develop these calculating, predicting machines, they're using them like a crystal ball or an oracle. Okay, so I don't believe that Elon Musk or any of these guys make any of their big moves without absolutely having run it through the machine, and the machine's telling them their next move, like chess. Chess was a very, very important part of the development of artificial intelligence. As we remember, Kasparov loses to Big Blue. You remember stuff like that. It's
right.
These guys are using it literally. This thing is guiding their moves, and I don't doubt to some degree that Trump's doing it too. That all the heavy hitters on the geopolitical and international corporation world with access to this machine, be it in the stock market or making political moves, is the same. I would just like to say that I was not fooled when Elon Musk went in and volunteered, quote unquote, to work at Doge, and in his patriotic sense of, I'm going to come in and save the government all kinds of money. Elon is the machine master. That's why he's so powerful and so wealthy, because at the end of the Industrial Revolution, which is the age of the machine, where it intersects with the information age, we've made a machine in our image that we'll worship, and it will eventually force us to worship it. So he's mastered machines. Everything that he does revolves around machinery. Elon is not a wise man. He's very, very clever, but he has no wisdom, and very, very few of our politicians have any wisdom either, because we don't vote wisdom. We vote for who's going to make the economy better, and who's going to do this better, and who's going to do that. And that makes for, generally speaking, bad politics. I'm glad that Trump won, don't get me wrong, but I wasn't fooled when Elon Musk took that position, and I wasn't surprised when he left. He took that position, I'm going to speculate, for one main purpose, because as a machine master, He wanted an education in the most powerful, largest machine apparatus in human history, and that is the federal government. So he went in to understand the federal government and inner working of the government.
Interesting.
He got the best education he could get, and then he left some of his people there that are loyal to him. Okay, so I'm not fooled by this falling out, whatever. He knew that was coming. That was planned. Everything is a chess move, and we need to start making sure that we know how to play chess. I mean, if we're only thinking about our next move, we're playing chess like a 4-year-old, not a very talented 4-year-old, or somebody, that just plays with the queen because the queen's easiest to move. She can do whatever the heck she wants on the board, but the other pieces take discipline and they take strategy. The queen doesn't take any strategy. So we wind up playing these guys like we're playing with our queen. They're going to demolish us, and they are demolishing us. And these guys, we have to make sure that they don't get a hold and commandeer the political conversation. And next thing you know, we've made laws that make this thing have political power as a citizen. And we just cannot do that. If we do, it's game over. It's going to be really hard as it is, because we're going to have to stand up and we're going to have to take charge of our own education. We have to take more involvement in some of the things that we've gotten used to not doing, like even growing our own food, cooking our own meals, raising children. These guys have no respect and no use for the traditional nuclear family.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right.
We have to remember, it's not we don't need more individuals. Like we don't need more children outside of wedlock. We need more family units, which is the absolute building block of Western civilization.
You're absolutely right.
Is the traditional family.
Absolutely right. Yeah. I am at my hard break here at the end of the hour. Paul List, thank you so much. Everyone go get a copy of the book, readmountaindoom.com. Paul, thank you for your time. I so appreciate it. I got to have you back on. I got more. Okay, thanks you. We'll be back, folks. Taking a break for the news here on The Reckoning. Back on the other side for hour number 2